What's up, heathens? How ya doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologists' claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today we're going to be taking another look at Genesis Apologetics. If you haven't seen my back catalog of debunking Genesis Apologetics, I urge you to go and check them out. But today we're going to be talking about something very specific.
Natural history museums everywhere line up ape-to-human icons that supposedly show humans evolving from ape-like creatures over millions of years. After the icon named Lucy, which evolutionists place in the 3 to 4 million years ago time slot, the next ape-to-human icon is Homo Habilis. This creature fits into evolution's timeline about 1.4 to 2.4 million years ago.
Homo Habilis. If you guys haven't seen my refutation of their Lucy argument, I actually did that with Apologia a long time ago. They had this sort of roundtable thing. I don't know. Anyways, there's going to be a link in the description or in the cards somewhere for you guys to go and check out the debunk video that Paul and I did on their arguments against Lucy. But today it's Homo Habilis, and I gotta admit, I don't really know that much about all of the archaeology and all of the information around Homo Habilis, but I have a friend that does.
Hello, my gentle modern apes as well as heathens of all ages. My pal Godless engineer here has graciously invited me on to talk about why it is Genesis Apologetics cannot help but get it all wrong all the time with regard to human evolution. I say we're going to talk a bit about that because were we to cover the entirety of what they get wrong, we would indeed be here until the heat death of the universe.
Thanks, Erika, for helping me out with this video. Now, if you guys want to find out how wrong Genesis Apologetics is about Homo Habilis, then please stay tuned.
Taking the slot right before Homo Erectus appears on the scene. Before looking at this icon, let's consider something very interesting about this stage in evolution's timeline.
Before we get into the meat of this, and I'll let Erika primarily take over in refuting their bullshit, I have to notice right off the bat how they're kind of framing human evolution, because it seems like they don't understand that there were different populations of organisms or populations of hominids that were changing in different ways, and so some of them happen to coexist alongside each other. They have this very linear view of human evolution, and that's not how evolution happens ever. I mean, true, we can trace a linear progression from ape ancestor all the way to the modern human, but they're trying to extend this linearity to all of the different forms of hominids that we find. In fact, that is not how human evolution actually happened.
According to the current theory of human evolution, the time slot between 2 and 3 million years ago has almost no fossil evidence to support it. This National Geographic article puts it this way: fossils attributed to Homo in the period 2 to 3 million years ago are exceedingly rare. They quote Dr. Kimball, director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, who said, "You could put them all into a small shoebox and still have room for a good pair of shoes. It's hard to imagine evolution pressing ahead for 1 million years with only a shoebox of bones to show for it. That's a long time to go without any supposed transitions between apes to humans."
Wait a second. Did that guy actually say this? I mean, a lot of times these creationist apologists love to take quotes out of context or just outright make shit up.
Biddle and the boys are back at it again. You cannot stop these guys. They are the absolute kingpins of misinformation. Allow me to help clear some of this up, if you will. Now, I don't know the inner mechanisms of Arizona State University, nor do I know a Dr. Kimmel, but I genuinely can't find this quote anywhere, and that's probably a good thing, because it is, in fact, wrong. I know this is going to come as an absolute shock to everyone out there, but Genesis Apologetics is indeed incorrect on this one. and everything else in this 7-minute video. Let's get a little bit of human evolution background in before we blow these guys the hell out of the water, shall we? This video is centered on Homo habilis, a species of hominin that has a suite of characteristics that lands it smack dab between the later Australopithecines like Lucy and the more human-looking ancestors such as Homo erectus. It is very literally the ape-man creationists have been asking for decades. Its brain case range is wildly intermediate, outside the typical range of the Australopithecines, and only overlapping slightly with those of Homo erectus. Its face is prognathic and apish compared to the later Homo members, but flat and distinguished when compared to the Australopithecines. The limb proportions make it a less efficient biped than later Homo, but a superstar when up against the Australopithecines. There are quite literally dozens of minutiae we could discuss that places Homo habilis as a mosaic hominid. And I've discussed it with creationists before. They ignored me. Not only that, but along with Australopithecus sediba, a hominin very similar to Homo habilis but indeed slightly more basal, hence its placement, Homo habilis occupies rock dated to transitional time periods. This means Homo habilis and Australopithecus sediba lived in times that saw the die-out of older and more basal hominins, as well as the arrival of more derived members of their own populations. Homo habilis is also somewhat of a conundrum for paleontologists. Like Homo erectus, it appears to have a wide variety of morphologies, all of which are mosaic, of course, but slightly unique from one another. Whether these are variants of Homo habilis or species in and of themselves has yet to be determined definitively. Proposed sister species have been named and are recognized by many paleontologists, being Homo rudolfensis and Homo gautengensis. Those who don't consider these species as valid, or consider them at all, must lump specimens of them into Homo habilis. Which, as you may have guessed, is problematic for Genesis apologetics. Now, could you fit them all into a shoebox and still have room for that pair of shoes? No, you couldn't. Pack it up, Biddle. That's a wrap, baby.
Let's consider the extent of the fossil evidence that exists for human evolution. Charles Darwin postured that if evolution was true, innumerable transitional forms must have existed. He also questioned, why do we not find them embedded in countless numbers in the crust of the Earth? We agree.
Yeah, okay, so if Darwin were here today and he saw the sheer number of transitional forms that are represented in the fossil record, he'd dab like 20 times and do like a Fortnite floss dance because he would be so utterly thrilled at the representation.
If human evolution was true, wouldn't we expect the ground to be filled with numerous transitions between ape-like creatures? We agree with Darwin that the lack of transitions is the most obvious and serious objection which can be urged against the theory of evolution.
This particular section right here portrays their misunderstanding of fossilization and how rare fossilization actually is. They expect to just find bones everywhere, when in fact the fossilization of bones, or bones remaining intact for millions and millions of years, is not as easy as they seem to think it is. But that being said, we do have plenty of fossils that clue us into the transitional forms of hominids.
Even Ian Tattersall, emeritus curator with the American Museum of Natural History, noted that you could fit all the supposed ape-to-human fossil evidence into the back of a pickup truck if you didn't mind how much you jumbled everything up. With centuries of recorded history and over 7 billion interfertile humans on the planet today, we should certainly have more than a truck bed of fossil evidence if evolution was true.
A picture speaks 1,000 words, and sometimes it also speaks a couple million years, let's say 7 to 13. This single picture that I'm about to show on screen, all on its own, blows the rhetoric against human evolution right the fuck out of the water.
Inventing a new icon, Homo Habilis, hasn't helped with the scarcity problem at all. In fact, did you know that they've never even discovered a Homo habilis skeleton? This species was invented to categorize bone pieces, which total less than 100, into an ape-to-human transitional form they believe was becoming more handy with stone tools, hence the name handyman. While they've never found anything even close to a complete Homo habilis creature, that hasn't stopped them from displaying complete human-looking versions of it in museums and textbooks everywhere. In fact, the best set of bones they have for this icon, which they refer to as the official type specimen, consists of just a jawbone with 13 teeth, a molar, a couple of skull fragments, and finger, hand, and wrist bones.
I kid you not, these guys don't even perform a cursory Google search so that they can have the slightest idea what it is that they're talking about. I direct viewers backward to an earlier part of this video where we zip through the sheer number of Homo habilis, Homo gauntengensis, and Homo rudolfensis specimens that we have. Oh, what the heck. Let's go through them one more time. The picture used here is even from a creationist book against human evolution, Contested Bones by Sanford and Roop, that itself covers more of the fossil finds than just the type specimen. Those two set the bar so low on this one, we're talking on the floor and in the basement, and Dan Biddle couldn't hoist his ideology over even that.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
Bones from this best type set of Homo habilis were found spread out over a 1,300 square foot area and were mixed with cow, pig, horse, tortoise, catfish, and bird bones that were also widely scattered over this entire area. After further study, however, evolutionists found that this defining specimen turned out to be a mixture of bones from different animals, with 6 of the 21 finger bones belonging to a different creature, one of the finger bones mistaken for a vertebral fragment, and 2 others belonging to a monkey. While the limited fossils belonging to this new Homo habilis icon were found with stone tools, evolutionists cannot be certain whether the stones were used by Homo habilis or used on Homo habilis by humans. They were in fact found broken apart and scattered over a 1,300 square foot area, just like all the other butchered animal bones in the region. Sure seems like humans were eating these creatures, along with a lot of other types of animals.
Once again, I hope you guys notice how only one specimen, the type, is being discussed here. What about all the others? Why aren't they even brought up if their case is so strong? With regard to the specimens they do feel like mentioning, it should be recognized that it's fairly easy to pick hominin bones out of a bone pit. We are bipedal animals with big brain cases and unique dentition. Of course, it should also be noted that many paleontologic sites find hominins in partial articulation rather than scattered, and that those sites aren't being covered by Genesis apologetics. That being said, paleontologists do make mistakes sometimes. So does every field.
Ooh, wait till you see the... No.
Does Genesis apologetics not find it a bit odd that of the bones misattributed, some phalanges were found to be from genus Papio, that is to say, the baboons, and that they were misattributed because of how similar they were to the hominin phalanges? Strange, that!
Think about the tools they found for a moment. The tools they discovered included choppers, polyhedrons, discoids, and many small tools like scrapers. The problem for evolutionists is that most of these tools were made from rocks that were quarried miles away from where they were used to butcher the dozens of animals found at the site, where thousands of animal bones were found pulled apart and unattached. Whoever used these tools knew what they were doing because they were all hand-sized, and most of them were made from a certain type of rock called quartzite, which can be flaked to a razor-like edge. Your average person today would have a really hard time making these tools. After identifying the right kind of rock, the rock has to be shaped using percussion and pressure tools, like pointed hammer stones and cylindrical hammers, like long bones. Plus, you've got to know how to make different types of tools for the various steps of removing food sources from animals, like meat and bone marrow.
I'm sorry, I just have to find that hilarious. You think that modern people couldn't figure out how to shape a rock? I mean, not only do you have a person in the video literally doing it right there, but I think that we can figure out how to shape a rock with another rock or with any other kind of blunt instrument. I mean, if these creatures, these hominids, were able to figure it out once, I'm sure modern man can figure it out again.
But the clues don't end with stone tools. The evidence that humans were actually the inhabitants of this site is also confirmed by a 12-foot circular foundation made of lava stones for a hut shelter they found in the same archaeological bed where Homo habilis bones were found. Paleo experts even describe this circular stone foundation as having a striking similarity to the dome-shaped hut shelters still made today by nomadic people in the same area. But it gets even better. They actually found the stone circle in a layer beneath Homo habilis bones. Now, that's not faring well for the theory of evolution, because whoever was there working with tools and building huts was on the scene before Homo habilis even showed up in the fossil record. This is exactly the opposite of what we would expect if evolution was true. The 348 animal bones they found scattered around the hut included species from the croc, cow, hippo, elephant, horse, tortoise, giraffe, and pig families. And do you know how many they found inside the stone hut circle? Only 11 small fragments, which were mostly toes and teeth. Seems like the leftover pork chops were being thrown outside the living area. The other clue that this site was being inhabited by humans is that 48 of the 50 pieces of debitage, which are the leftover pieces of rock that get removed when stone tools are made, were found outside the stone hut foundation.
Good lord, these people. The reason that the stone tools are attributed to Homo habilis is because they are dated as coordinating with the hominins' time in this location. You know, by radiometrically dating them, that thing creationists tried to and then could not debunk. Additionally, Homo habilis had a brain case size ranging to double what we see in modern members of genus Pan, that ape species known for using stone tools. According to evolution, we would expect to see transitional stone tool usage, tools that were more advanced than simple hand axes, but not quite to the level of what we see in Homo erectus and upwards. Uh-oh, looks like that meets the prediction. And for the shelters, the same holds true. While we can't necessarily confirm or deny that what we found with these foundational blocks are indeed indicative of this basal shelter building, even if it is, it doesn't throw a monkey wrench, into human evolution. Today, gorillas and billy apes build daily nests. Why would we be surprised by a basal shelter appearing before a more sophisticated one in the fossil record? So much of this video is wrong, and what isn't wrong is presented disingenuously.
Sounds like a human living area to me.
What? How? These guys are genuinely saying that these potential basal shelters and stone tools are human because humans, make stone tools and shelters, so, they must be human. What about the other animals that make shelters and stone tools? It's absolutely insane. These guys eyeball something and check it off the list.
According to Mary Leakey, the lead paleo expert over the site, the main evidence that the stone hut foundation was an artificial structure, like man-made, were the 6 mounds of heaped rocks around the circle that were evidently used for support poles. She also remarked about the disproportionate number of bones and tools they found outside the hut and not inside, along with a 2-foot buffer zone around the circle that was mostly clear of tools and bones. The other amazing insight offered by the Leakeys, the very scientists who discovered Homo habilis, is that they found fossil evidence leading them to believe that Australopithecus, Homo habilis, and Homo erectus all lived at the same time.
Well, I mean, just speaking from my own very layman understanding of evolution, this would not be surprising. I mean, you had Homo sapiens living alongside Neanderthals and even interbreeding at some point. So, it wouldn't surprise me if you had some kind of configuration where Homo habilis sort of was living at the time of those two other species. But then again, this just shows how much they do not understand about evolution, and they can only twist the information in order to fit their own needs. And that's the only way that their particular hypothesis can make sense, which, by the way, just to put it into perspective here, their hypothesis is that a magical wizard in the sky snapped his fingers and created all the animals, including humans. So, I guess if you factor in magic, that might help you, but I really don't think that your particular explanation is an explanation at all.
So how is one species supposed to evolve into another over millions of years if the fossil evidence points to them living at the same time? Their position has perplexed many other evolutionary scientists, but they reported what they found. All three species discovered living at the same time.
No papers, no studies, no numbers. Yes, cohabitation of the hominins absolutely happened, and it happened pretty much all throughout human evolution, just as primate species cohabitate now, but may yield different lineages down the line. But here's the reason I point to a lack of studies. It looks like, according to current timelines, that while Homo habilis cohabitated with the Australopithecines and with Homo erectus, the latter and the former did not cohabitate with one another. Homo habilis is the one to bridge that gap. Hey. Isn't that kind of like a transitional species? Now, it may be that we find out in the future that populations of Australopithecines did persist into Homo erectus' timeline, but that would do nothing but further teach creationists the difference between divergence time and speciation time. The modern example would be dogs descend from wolves. We still have wolves. It really is a bummer that in this day and age where we have all of the papers and studies readily accessible to anyone who wants to know more about human evolution, that we get drivel like that put out by Genesis Apologetics. This is why it's important to let people know when, if and when, I suppose, their information may be incorrect or incomplete, and where their sources may be inexcusable. I'm Erika, the gutsick Gibbon, and this has been a light busting of Genesis Apologetics. Back to you, John. Haha. That's what I say, right?
Yeah, Erika, that's a good way to segue into the outro. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you joining me today and really doing a lot of the heavy lifting for this. Like I said, I know Australopithecus out my ass, but Homo habilis I just hadn't had time to research yet. So I really appreciate you coming on here and giving all of the heathens here, as well as non-heathens, a little bit of a lesson on Homo habilis. I'm very appreciative of it. And I would like to say that, one, I was right at the very beginning of this video. They have a very linear kind of mindset when it comes to human evolution. While we could trace the linear progression from our common ancestor with the other great apes to Homo sapien now, that's not how human evolution actually happened. But Genesis Apologetics seems to think that that is the way that it happened. Another thing that I was right about was the fact that there is a configuration where Homo habilis could have been living both at the time of Australopithecus as well as Homo erectus. And, I could guesstimate this just because I know how evolution works. If you understand how changes occur in population groups, you would understand that it's very possible for two different species in the same genus to be coexisting at the same time. Like Erika said, we find this happening in nature already right now. So again, if you're not subscribed to Gutsick Gibbon, go down below and give her a subscribe. She's well worth it, and she provides a lot of great information there on her channel. If you want to learn more about evolution, I highly suggest Gutsick Gibbon. Oh, another good honorable mention is Dapper Dino. I've got him linked down below as well. Well, heathens, that's going to be it for us today. I hope that you guys liked the video. If you did, let us know down below. I'd really love to hear what you guys think about Genesis Apologetics' bad information. Or do you think it was good information? Let me know about that down below. Hey, while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens!